This video is about my recent 34-day, 12,000-kilometer motorcycle trip from Armenia to Europe on my Benelli TRK502x motorcycle. My name is Tigran. I have a 2020 Benelli TRK502x, which I bought a year ago from the KTM Husqvarna Benelli dealer in Yerevan, Armenia. The last season was short and not very eventful because I injured my back. So I made only 6,000 kilometers and had a 5-day mini trip to Georgia. I wrote several posts about the last biking season, sharing my impressions of the bike. Having a nice, well-equipped bike, I was dreaming about a big motorcycle trip for this year. So when I returned to Armenia in June this year, I just decided that it's time and I have to make a very big motorcycle trip to Europe. The initial goal was Greece, but after reaching Istanbul with unexpected comfort and getting maximum pleasure from the bike and the road, I decided to continue my trip and get to Italy on my Italian bike, Benelli. After reaching Italy along the Adriatic coast via Bulgaria, Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, Croatia and Slovenia, and realizing that I very like my bike and also this trip, I visited Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Monaco, France, and finally went back to my home, Armenia. So in total, the trip took 34 days. I made 12,000 kilometers, visited 15 countries, spent a lot of money and got a lot of positive emotions. I'm very happy that I made this trip. A few words about the bike. In my opinion, Benelli TRK502x is a super successful model for such trip. The engine is not big, only 500cc, but is more than enough. The comfortable cruising speed is around 110-120 kilometers per hour. However, the bike accelerates up to 160. The average consumption during my trip was less than 5 liters, taking into account that my luggage with the original cases was something like 60 kilos, plus me, nearly 100 kilos. Also, during the last week of my trip, my girlfriend joined me. This is plus 65 kilos. However, the bike was easily carrying all this weight. Windshield on this bike is excellent. Even going 120, I was listening music via Bluetooth intercom. About the engine vibrations and suspension, I had a lot of days riding 700, 800, even 900 kilometers, and sometimes with not very good roads. However, I wasn't dying at the end of those days. The bike is truly comfortable. However, my iPhone didn't like the vibrations. The Face ID in the cameras died somewhere after the 20th day of the trip. Also, before reaching Italy, I had the original seat. It's quite comfortable, but in Verona, the Benelli dealer upgraded my bike with a seat from the 2023 model. This is even better. The new one is slightly wider and lower. The bike liked the E5 gasoline, which is not available in Armenia and Georgia. No check engine light in Europe during all the trip. At about 11,000 kilometers, the battery died, but I was expecting that. And aside from the battery problem, no other issues during all the trip. I was riding on the original Metzeler Touran tires, and even now, after 19,000 kilometers of total mileage of my bike, they are good. I think that they will last another 10,000 kilometers. The same situation with the chain and sprockets. I really like this motorcycle, everything works as expected. And in fact, for the price that I paid for that, I got spoked wheels, 3 aluminum cases, very nice and balanced engine transmission, and all this just for less than 7,500 euros. Every morning during the trip, I just wanted to get on my Benelli and drive. Of course, there are some negative moments. The bike is not very comfortable when you go above 140 kilometers per hour. The heavily loaded bike starts to wobble. Also, the front suspension is a bit soft. The bike itself is very heavy, but it's not a problem for more or less experienced riders. Also, from the negative moments, the access to the rear shock is very limited, but it's possible to adjust it, having the original range from the Benelli. Also, the crash bars are not very well designed. Better to get aftermarket ones. I broke the left one while off-roading some months ago, and I wasn't able to get the original ones. About the trip. In general, I had no plans So I was deciding where to drive and what to do according to my feelings. Aside from riding, I tried to walk in at least 2 cities during the day, drive until dark, rent hotels in the nearest cities, no hurry at all during all the trip. Initially, I was planning to camp a lot. I had everything for it with me, but opened the tent only for the first night and also booked ferries a few times. During this trip, I realized that the weather is extremely important. The most comfortable is 23-28 degrees Celsius, cloudy or light rain. And it's also better to travel in the southern Europe, Turkey in spring or autumn, as in June-July, when I was in the trip, temperatures are often over 30 and up to 40 degrees, and it's not fun at all. You are trying not to die from the heat all the time. Also during this trip, the minimum temperature was in Switzerland, something like plus 4 degrees, and the maximum in Fethiye, it's in Turkey, it was about 40 degrees. Also, I realized how rest days are important. I had 9 free days out of this 34 trip days, so 25 riding days for 12,000 kilometers. This means that I was making something like 500 kilometers per day. And with these 500 kilometers, I was also walking in the new cities, visiting some sites, and so on. For the first 3-4 days, I was doing 700 kilometers per day. Then from 400 to 700 for another 10 days, I think. By the end of the trip, I was doing 300 kilometers a day in Turkey because it was very hot. And also I was with my girlfriend. We were visiting a lot of sites and so on. However, the last 1500 kilometers we made in 2 days because, first of all, the temperatures were comfortable and also I wanted to get to my home. Overall, I had a very good time. There was some balance between riding, visiting new places, meeting awesome people, getting to nice roads and very beautiful nature. So I just found out that solo traveling is an amazing experience and pleasure. It's very cool to travel alone, escape from the usual environment with understandable things and problems. Also during this trip, for the first time in my life, I took ferries and that was also amazing. The first ferry was going from Ancona in Italy to Patra in Greece. It was on the 23rd day of the trip. I was locked on the ferry for 22 hours with almost no internet, no sleeping place, but with bars, restaurants, nice people, and a beautiful view on the sea from the decks. I was using an internet in roaming. It wasn't very expensive, 3 gigabytes for 35 euros, and in total I spent something like 8 to 9 gigabytes. But the internet saves a lot of time, whether it's to rent a hotel if you're tired or to check if it's worth visiting something or skip it and so on. So my luggage for this trip was something like 60 kilos and I took a lot of clothes with me and most of them were unneeded and not useful. Next time I will just take raincoats, a couple of shirts and that's all. I realized that carrying all the things, all the clothes in sorted bags is very, very nice. It saves a lot of time. Plus, everything is always in the right place. A brief overview of the countries that I have visited. About Armenia and Georgia, I will probably make another video. Turkey. In general, roads are good. Sometimes they are nice, sometimes not. But they are very slow because of villages and traffic lights. And also you need to be very careful as of crazy traffic in the cities. I spent 3 days traveling to Europe and a week on the way back with my girlfriend. Efes, wow, Amasya is also very beautiful, Fethiye is nice, Kaş is a great place for tourism, the Kalkan-Kaş-Finikiye coastal road is super, looks like you're in Croatia. You need to arrive in Pamukkale in the evening and go to the Travertines early morning, almost no one until 9 a.m. Also, there is a Kaputaş beach near Kalkan, a must-visit place. Göreme and the surrounding places are fantastic, but when we were there it was extremely hot. Konya is a very European city, also I liked Sivas. About Istanbul, crazy traffic and a lot of people. My accommodation was in Kadıköy, I spent a few hours in the jams just to get there. Also, motorcycle insurance at the border for 3 months costs 600 liras, it's like $20, and there was an ATM. Plus, I paid 7 liras, which is less than 30 cents for some toll road. I had no problems with border crossing, 4 of them during this trip. But in Turkey, at all border crossing points, you will find complete chaos, but everyone is very friendly. And finally, in general, Turks do not speak English, but I have never had problems or misunderstandings with them. Bulgaria. Absolutely no problems with border crossings. As of June 2023, toll roads were free for the bikes. I really like the capital Sofia, it's very cozy, so I decided to stop there for a few days. Macedonia. I didn't really like it. Skopje and Ohrid didn't seem very interesting. Had some problems with toll roads, payments, plus the border guards asked for 50 euros for the motorcycle insurance, but I spent in the country only 5 hours. Albania. Very easy and fast border crossings, no stamps in the passport. The country is very beautiful, the nature sometimes is similar to the Georgia's nature. I took the road from Ohrid to Tirana. It's beautiful but narrow and with the traffic. The capital Tirana itself is very green, clean and well maintained. I really like this city. Montenegro is a very beautiful country. I took the road to Kotor along the Adriatic Sea, which is amazing but super slow. After Kotor, I drove through Beras to Croatia along the bay, and this was one of the most interesting roads of this trip. Croatia is already a Schengen zone, but you can't buy a green card insurance at the border. It can be done online, but takes a few days. Visited Dubrovnik, the most interesting historical site I have ever been, then took the beautifulest road to Split and Zadar. I've also visited Krka waterfall. The country is very civilized and comfortable for tourists, clean and very nice. Spent there 3 days and met so many amazing people. I visited Croatia for the first time this May, then in June on my motorcycle, and really fell in love with this country. Slovenia. I took rural beautiful roads to Ljubljana. The capital is very cozy, but I wanted to get to Italy quickly, so I didn't stay in the country. I will skip Italy for now, it will be at the end of this video. Switzerland. For me it's cold, expensive and rainy, with both amazing and not so regions. There are very interesting roads along the border with Italy. I passed through Stelvio to Vaduz in Liechtenstein and back to Milan. Also from Lausanne through the St. Bernard Tunnel to Aosta in Italy. Liechtenstein and Monaco. Just 2 new countries in the list of my visited countries. France. Didn't plan to drive to France, but as soon as I arrived in Monaco, I felt at home. A few years ago, I was doing my PhD studies in Dijon and decided that since I had already reached France, I should definitely visit some friends. So I spent a day in Nice, Cannes, a couple of days near Limoges, a couple of days in Dijon visiting my ex-scientific supervisor, and then in Besançon. I also visited my beloved Lyon. France has the most maintained roads, plus the cities are super. Even some problems that I had with the gas stations. Some of them take 100 or 200 euros of deposit, returning it in a month. Several times a day, the automatic barriers didn't recognize the bike or my cards or cash or something like that. I didn't spoil my impressions of the country. I love France. It's belle and very interesting. Greece. I spent only 5 hours on the mainland this time. Sailed to Patra by ferry, drove 200 kilometers to Athens through my favorite Corinth Canal, boarded the second ferry and sailed to Chios. Drove around the island for a couple of hours, met the dawn on the mountain and decided to leave to Turkey. 80 euros for a ferry ticket, passport control, 30 minutes on the ferry, 2 hours of passport control in Çeşme and I'm in Turkey. I love Greece very much, but since I was there in January, this time I decided to leave. Plus, it was super hot. Let's leave Elada for the next time. Now, about Italy. In my opinion, Italy is the best country for biking. Even the highways are interesting, surrounded by vineyards, villas, rivers, hills, forests, and so on. And I'm not even talking about the beauty of the Alps, Italian architecture and nature. They are incredibly diverse, beautiful, and interesting. I have been to Italy several times, just crossing it without stops, and always thought that France and Spain are much more interesting. And I was wrong. Nature is amazing, cities are amazing, everything is amazing there. Only in Rome you can walk for weeks and not get tired of the old beautiful architecture. St. Peter's Cathedral is divine, Vatican is super. Also there, for the first time in 20 days of my trip, I heard an Armenian speech. I talked to the Armenian embassy staff, great guys. I visited Vatican, Colosseum, and the Pantheon, the main must-visit places. Also, quite by chance, I visited Siena and was amazed by this old city. As for Pisa, I always thought it was just another popular tourist site, but it turned out to be so cute that I brought home a whole bag of Pisa Tower souvenirs. Visited also Sirmione, it's just wow. And Toscana, Bolzano, Genoa, Turin, Verona, Venice. All they are amazing. You need to visit Italy and stay there for months. During the super active 7-8 days of my trip there, I saw only a small part of it and fell in love. And thanks to the Armenian Benelli dealership, Benelli Italia contacted me and serviced my motorcycle for free. It was so nice to get such an attention and care that this motivated me to ride further for another 20 days. Also in Italy I visited several BEPS showrooms and bought a lot of moto equipment because I have never seen such an assortment of equipment in my life. And finally, the Stelvio Pass. The most amazing place of this big moto trip. Wow, you have to see it for yourself. I cannot describe in words the beauty of the mountains and the emotions that I experienced there.